So again, the narrative that is now coming out from the left, and they're going to try and run this all the way to the election, is that Trump is soft again on white supremacy. Now, do I think this is going to shift votes? No, I think we've done this routine several times before. It seems like it comes up every several months. So Joy Behar is the most blunt instrument in the Democratic arsenal. So here she was yesterday on The View suggesting that Trump himself was a white supremacist. Yes, I'm sure that's right. I'm sure that Donald Trump, the guy who signed into law criminal justice reform, who moved the embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, whose daughter is Jewish and whose grandchildren are Jewish, and who has evinced tremendous love for both Jews and black Americans. And there's a guy going back decades who was hanging out with like Don King. Here's Joy Behar talking about how Donald Trump is not just soft on white supremacy. Again, he's made comments in the past where I think he was. Did he do that the other night? No, he did not. She doesn't just say he was soft on white supremacy. She goes whole hog because that's Joy Behar. She's never met anything like a moderate statement. She says instead, Donald Trump is himself a white supremacist.
Can I just say one thing? So, of course, he doesn't denounce white supremacy, Sonny, because he is a white supremacist. Americans have to decide whether they want a white supremacist in the White House. We've never had it before. Maybe we didn't know we had it, but we certainly know we have it now.
Yeah. Okay, no. Okay, so here's the white supremacist yesterday. So the white supremacist in chief yesterday, here he was. He was asked specifically about denouncing white supremacy. Here was his answer.
They should stop defunding the police like they've done in New York, like they've done in New York. I just told you.
But you denounce them.
I've always denounced any form of any of that you have to denounce. But I also, Joe Biden has to say something about Antifa. It's not a philosophy. These are people that hit people over the head with baseball bats. He's got to come out and he's got to be strong. And he's got to condemn Antifa. And it's very important that he does it.
Okay, so first of all, he's right. He's absolutely right here that the media have completely ignored the fact that during that debate, Joe Biden refused to condemn an actual violent group, Antifa, who've been committing acts of heinous violence, up to and including murder, in America's major cities. And that's gone completely by the wayside. Like, he openly did that. Okay, you didn't have to read into the comments to get there. Joe Biden literally refused to condemn Antifa from a presidential stage, and no one gives a damn in the media. Right? That's an actual violent group. The vast majority of the violence happening in our cities right now, the city's burning, that is not white supremacists. It is not white supremacists in Chicago and LA and New York and DC. It's not white supremacists in Portland. It's not white supremacists in Seattle. There's a bunch of left-wing groups. Joe Biden has been able to get away with that because the media are so militarized against Trump that they seriously do not care if Joe Biden decides to make excuses for Antifa. I mean, Chris Cuomo was a big Antifa defender in the early days. He still occasionally will kind of let that mask slip a little bit. So he's right about, but the key quote there is, of course I defend this. Of course I denounce white supremacy. I denounce all forms of this. I've always denounced all forms of this. Okay, so let's just replay. For the sake of people's ears and eyes, who are you going to believe? Seth Rogen and Joy Behar and the members of the New York Times editorial board, or your own ears? So I'm going to replay the exchange that happened from the debate the other night and see if you can find in here Donald Trump not denouncing white supremacy. Seriously. There's only one way that you can get there, and I'll explain it in a second, but you have to have the preconceived notion going in that Trump is a white supremacist in order to come away with that conclusion. Okay, let's play the clip.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do
specifically?
that.
Okay, stop it right there for a second. He has now said in the first 10 seconds of this clip, sure, twice, sure. And then he says again, sure, I'm willing to do that. And then Trump turns, right? He turns and he swivels and he says, I don't understand why we're talking about right-wing violence in cities that are being dominated by left-wing violence. I don't understand this. Why aren't we talking about BLM? Why aren't we talking about Antifa? That is a perfectly legitimate point. Okay, and then Wallace, because he was terrible the other night, decides that he's going to double down on this. Yes, sir, but will you condemn? He already did twice. He said sure 2 times. If he wanted to say no, he would just shake his head, or he would say no. You think Donald Trump is unwilling to say things that piss people off? He does it all the time. Okay, but the fact is that he does condemn white supremacy. He does condemn these people who are committing violence in the cities if they are from the right. Okay, I'm sorry, but okay, so there's literally a 3-word thing that Trump says in the rest of this exchange that everybody on the left is hanging their hat on to claim that he is in fact a white supremacist. Okay, and the only way that you can read this is if you think that Trump is exact with his language, which we all know he is not. It is amazing how the left which fully understands that Donald Trump is wildly inexact with his language, that Donald Trump routinely says dumb crap, how suddenly they get super serious and meticulous about his literal language all the time. Now, listen, I understand the left saying to people on the right, you know, you guys, you say that you should take him seriously, not literally, and that lets him that lets him basically say whatever he wants to say, and we're supposed to read into his words. But I don't even take him seriously. I've said this all along. I've been very consistent about this. I don't think that virtually anything Trump says ought to be taken seriously because I don't think that he's the world's most serious person. I don't think it's possible to look at Trump and think he's the world's most serious person. I think very often there's a core of truth to things that he says, but I do not think that he is exact in his language. I don't think that he thinks out what he's doing beforehand. It doesn't. Okay, so here is the rest of the exchange.
Specifically,
but
do it.
Well, go ahead, sir. I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
who would you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing
director.
Okay, so stop it there. So he already said, right at the top, sure, twice I'm willing to condemn white supremacy. And then the thing stops dead, right? For the first time in the entire debate, it stops dead because he literally is confused. You can see he's confused. They're saying to him, both Biden and Wallace, then do it, sir, do it. And he's like, I don't know what you want me to do. I literally just said that I condemn the white supremacists and I condemn the violence in the cities. Who are we talking about? Like, I don't know who we're talking about. And the reason he says, I don't know who we're talking about, is because the left lumps every single human being together. The left pretends that everybody they disagree with is a white supremacist. Okay, this is unfortunately a common left-wing trope, is that everyone they disagree with is a white supremacist. Let me give you a perfect example. So yesterday, Joe Biden releases an ad. Okay, this ad is about Donald Trump not apparently fighting back against the white supremacists hard enough. You'll see even in the Chris Wallace question there, he says white supremacists and right-wing militia groups. Okay, so number one, you can condemn anybody who's getting involved in violence that is illegal. That's fine. But if you are going to say that all of these quote-unquote right-wing militia groups are the same ideologically as white supremacists, that is inaccurate, right? But the left likes to do that. Ideologically, they're not the same. The left has now grouped together, for example, Patriot Prayer, which is a not racist group, with actual white supremacists who are in fact racist. Joe Biden did an ad yesterday where he grouped together, in order to group together everybody who they disagree with, they grouped together Kyle Rittenhouse and white supremacists who were marching that Unite the Right garbage people rally. Okay, Kyle Rittenhouse, for all the idiocy of going to a riot site with a gun, okay, he shouldn't have done it. I've said that 1,000 times. He is not a white supremacist. There's no evidence he's a white supremacist. Joe Biden groups him together with the white supremacists in this ad. So here is that ad from Joe Biden yesterday.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared to
do
specifically
that,
do it? Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
right. Like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by.
Okay, and then so here's where they are. Here's what they're relying on. They're relying on those three words, and stand by. Okay, so what was Trump saying when he said and stand by? Do you really think that he was saying stand back and then I want you to stand by as like a paramilitary organization? Or do you think that what he meant was stand back and stand down? Okay, which one do you think that he meant? I can tell you what Gavin McInnes, the founder of the Proud Boys, said. He literally was doing an online follow of this particular debate. And in the middle, he said, wait a second, he just told us to stand back and stand down. I'm the head of the Proud Boys. Donald Trump isn't the head of the Proud Boys. So Gavin McInnes, the head of the Proud Boys, understood that what Trump was saying was stand down. But Donald Trump isn't the head of the Proud Boys. Okay, beyond that, notice the attempt by the left to, again, lump everybody in under one rubric. Now, I'm not a Proud Boys guy. I don't like the Proud Boys. I've told them before I don't want them involved with anything that I do, right? They've offered in the past, some of the Proud Boys, to go to like speeches that I give and provide security. I'm like, what the hell? You guys are a paramilitary group. I don't want anything to do with the Proud Boys. But to lump them in as white supremacists, right? That is the next step. So in order to get to Trump didn't condemn white supremacy, you have to make a logical leap here. The logical leap is that the Proud Boys, number one, are white supremacists, and number two, Trump was attempting to embolden them rather than telling them to stand down. Okay, those are two logical leaps, neither of which is in evidence. Number one, he told them to stand back. When he said stand by, do you think he meant stand back and I want you to stand by in paramilitary fashion? I suppose you could interpret it that way if that's how you want to, but I don't think that's what he was saying. And I think it's fairly obvious that he meant stand back and stand down. Okay, beyond that, in order to get to this point, you have to lump together white supremacy. Okay, so he says twice in that exchange, will you condemn white supremacy? Sure. Okay, and then he says, who are you talking about specifically? And Joe Biden jumps in and gives the name Proud Boys. Hey, now, in order to get to Trump is soft on white supremacy, you then have to say that the Proud Boys are a white supremacist group. In fact, as CNN reported yesterday, they are not a white supremacist group. They may be a paramilitary organization. They may be an organization whose members engage in illegal activity. They may be an organization, some of whose members have engaged in white supremacy, but as an organization, they actually condemn white supremacy, as CNN's own reporters acknowledged yesterday.
We should be really clear that the Proud Boys do not consider themselves a white supremacist group. They have members from many different ethnicities. That doesn't mean that they have not wreaked havoc. They're more like a political fight club, if you will, than a white supremacist group, and have distanced themselves.
So in order to get to Trump is soft on white supremacism, you have to say, number one, the Proud Boys are a white supremacist group. And two, Trump was taking leadership of them and telling them to arm up, which he was not doing, In fact, what are the chances that Trump actually knows who the Proud Boys are? Like, really knows who they are? Trump does this crap all the time because he has never not sounded off on an issue, right? He says, who are you talking about? It's Joe Biden who inserts the Proud Boys into that conversation. Trump yesterday was asked about the Proud Boys, and Trump was like, I don't even know who they are. You mentioned a name, you threw it out there. I was like, okay, so stand back and stand down or stand by or whatever it is. Here was Trump yesterday.
I don't know who the Proud Boys are. I mean, you'll have to give me a definition because I really don't know who they are. I can only say they have to stand down, let law enforcement do their work. Law enforcement will do the work more and more. As people see how bad this radical liberal Democrat movement is and how weak, the law enforcement's going to come back stronger and stronger. But again, I don't know who Proud Boys are, but whoever they are, they have to stand down, let law enforcement do their work.
Okay, this is a completely manufactured media narrative. This one. It really is. There are times when Trump has said things and it is not a manufactured media narrative. This one is manufactured out of whole cloth. You can watch the clip yourself. You can analyze it yourself. Unless you go in with the predicate that Donald Trump is a white supremacist, you cannot read that as a white supremacist statement, nor any of the statements to follow. You know what white supremacists generally don't do? The following day, again, say for the 1,000th time, they condemn white supremacy and also that the Proud Boys should stand down. That's the thing they don't do. I mean, it's amazing. The media conflate every single person they don't agree with white supremacy, and then say that if you condemn those people or if you tell them to stand down, you're a defender of white supremacy. Again, go back and listen. When I think that Trump has said things that are soft on white supremacy, I've blasted the living crap out of him. Probably more than anybody on the right. Actually, I won't say probably. Certainly more than anybody on the right. That is not what happened in the debate last night, and the attempt to manufacture this narrative in advance of the election is really a media creation, and quite a disgusting media creation at that. And you can see, by the way, the media spinning this narrative up in real time on everything. You wonder why there's such a level of distrust in the country on these sorts of issues, on racial issues. Maybe it has something to do with the media that will somehow come up with the idea that this was a soft on white supremacy moment for Trump in the debate. And at the same exact time, they will throw out there that Kyle Rittenhouse is a white supremacist. I mean, there are members of the media who were saying this at the time in Kenosha. I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date on all of our future content.